What if the real reason you feel stuck isn't because you are broken, but because your body is still holding on to a story it never got to finish? In today's episode, we are exploring how to move into embodied healing, the kind that starts with the breath, reclaims your nervous system, and brings you back into alignment with who you truly are. You'll learn how trauma hides in the body, how numbing blocks manifestation, and how real love becomes possible when you feel safe enough to listen. And as always, I want to honor the community that supports these insights. And one of the brightest lights in my healing circle is LuAna Matthews, a healing soul and gifted healer who offers Reiki, hypnotherapy, and some of the most soothing, transformative meditations I have ever experienced. I honestly return to her meditations again and again. They are pure medicine. Her wisdom and energy are woven into so much of the work I share, and I truly believe that healing in community is not just supportive, it is essential. So let's breathe into this together and return, as always, back to the heart.
Hi, thank you so much for that introduction, and hello to everyone in your beautiful community of your podcast. I feel truly honored to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. So let's just dive in and let's start with your health challenges that you've overcome. And let's start with how you found out what was going on and what's got you to today.
Okay, that's a great question. I actually didn't find out for about 33 years, which is not uncommon for people who have had Lyme disease and co-infections. And I want to just say for the listeners, I'm going to go a little bit into my story so you can understand if you're going through this process for yourself right now. However, I don't feel attached or living in that story anymore. We're doing this for informational purposes only. The reason I say that is I've noticed if we repeat and repeat and repeat our story, we get stuck in that loop. So I'm wanting to share this for you guys so that you have this as knowledge to help yourself move through this season that you're in. But so I'm not stuck any longer in that space. So
I
how
love that so much. That's such a powerful statement to start out with that is definitely needs to be recognized. So thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And you know what? Hey, that information is not from me, it's from the sages and it's from others. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he'll say, like, I won't ask somebody their story because I won't do that to them. I don't want to get them stuck in that. We're going to look at the emotion. However, I do feel value that people can hear what I move through in case they're there right now. So they know that they have the technology and the capability and ability within themselves to move through that. And that this ceremony that they picked for themselves has lots of beautiful guides who they can see and they don't see here to help support them. So for me, it really started around 5 years old. I started becoming aware of a darkness, of this dark cloud that came over me. That's what I felt like. I felt like a lot of joy and happiness, and then this dark cloud kind of came over me and around me. And though I had moments of happiness and joy, as we all do, I just started feeling very off. My connection with my guides was still there, but I felt disconnected a little bit. Actually, I can't say a little bit, a lot. And it felt like there was this big barrier. And then it started showing up in my body. Now, when we talk about Lyme disease and co-infections, this is something that is with the environment and biological. We can also connect that to trauma. I'm not going to speak about trauma today. I'm just going to speak about this part. Uh, but if we think about Lyme disease, Lyme disease is transmitted through a vector. So it's a tick that has this cocktail of vector frequencies, I could say. And when they bite you, kind of like a vampire, they transmit that into your blood. And so I obtained this. I don't really know where, probably playing outside in Colorado. It's where I grew up. I was always outside because I had a huge connection with them. I always wanted to be outside. So I would be laying in the grass or laying by a stream or doing different things. So probably at any of those times, I could have had a tick on me. Why I'm mentioning this is because I started to have behavioral problems and learning difficulties. So I went from being able to understand things very well to not being able to understand things very well. I muddled through it. And then when I was 12 or 13, I believe it was 12, I fell off of my horse. And this connects a lot into the other part of the health journey because my immune system, or my system that I was in, was not fully aware of everything going on with the Lyme disease. When I fell off of my horse, I hit a rock on my head and I obtained a traumatic brain injury. Bear in mind, none of this was known. It wasn't like if I was growing up in the time where you got up, you don't have like things like broken or bleeding. They're like, you're okay. My mom did call the doctor, but they're like, we don't think anything happened with her brain. Actually, there was, but why that's an important part of the story is because right then, from that moment on, my disposition changed completely. I started to be depressed. I started to not want to be around people. I was very social before. I started to not want to be social anymore. I would have extreme migraine headaches. I would experience a huge array of symptoms. Now, it's interesting to me, and I want to say this for the listeners, that all of this showing up in the physical was also around the time where we can come into the initiation of our giftings. So around the teenage years. And this is also when we're having, I like to say, the death of our childhood into the next phase, because we have different phases that we're moving through. So when we become into the preteen and teens, the child we now are laying to rest, and we're starting to have a realization that the world is different. The world is something that we're moving into. We have like breasts coming for women and, different desires coming in, but also we may be having our spiritual gifts have more connection. And why I mention that is because all of this, if we don't have a mentorship around us, can be very scary and confusing, particularly if we're within a system or a program that doesn't recognize these sort of passages with mentorship. So that is what I chose to move through, but I wasn't diagnosed until 2016. So that's really when I started to either have me pass away or show me to how I can free myself. And this is what I asked God. And this is what I actually asked the Virgin of Guadalupe in Mexico City, or Tonantzin. I asked, kneeling on my knees, either have me pass away or help me to find how I can become free. And that's when everything started switching.
Wow. That's incredible. But you got to that point where, what was happening in your life that you got to that point where you're like, I'm not doing this anymore. There's got to be either another option or I'm out.
Well, in full transparency, since I was 12, I kept trying to kill myself because I knew something was not right. I knew that in the night, and this will sound very odd for some people, but I know it to be true, at least at this moment in time, for this part of me that's conscious, is that in the night, I knew I was waking up in weird positions. I knew that things were going on with my sexual organs that were not right, but I didn't know exactly what it was. I knew that I had seen interdimensional beings and that they had communicated with me actually telepathically that you are experiencing these things as a school and as growth. I knew there were some that were interdimensional. I knew that there were some that were military. I knew that much even at 12. It was a lot, and then I thought that I was making it all up. So it was a lot for me to move through without any mentorship here in the 3D. That's when my guides started coming in. And so the wanting out happened a lot since I was 12. I remember going to get Tylenol and not wanting to leave my family, not wanting to leave Earth, but knowing that I no longer wanted to be in whatever this was that I was in. And so I just would continuously try to terminate my life all the way up to 2016 in different ways. And I'd have times where I was okay, meaning I went into the system and did what they said I should do, which was take medicine. And then I'd feel more disconnected from myself and completely disconnected from my guides until I got to 2016. And I would say the difference there was that when I tried to commit suicide, you don't want to say tried, cancel, clear, delete. When I had the intention to commit suicide in 2021, and I was very close there, they had to bring me back. I remember seeing, I think now it's my higher self, but she told me, don't you want to stay? You're going to help. And she showed me the people that I would be helping that I had contracts with. And she said, I'm going to help you. And I said, okay, I will come back. And so I came back because when you're there, if anyone's had a near-death experience, when you're there, it feels so great that I was like, I don't want to go back. I know I signed up for this, but I don't want to go back. But I also knew that if I didn't go back, I'm going to have to repeat this whole thing again and start from the beginning. So I was given with like a counsel there. They're like, you can go back and we're going to help you. And so that helped me know in 2016 that I was like, okay, I found it out. Like I physically found it out. And I know for some people listening to this, your consciousness might not be there yet where you understand when I said I found it out. And that is okay. If you're just listening to this and you're at the point where you're like, I've just been diagnosed with Lyme disease, I'm afraid I'm going to die. One, I'm going to tell you, you don't have to die. You don't have to die from Lyme disease. You don't have to be sick for the rest of your life with Lyme disease. You don't have to be paralyzed. You don't have to. It's available for you to not be. And then once you get past that part, you're going to come to a different part of the consciousness and understand that you chose an out because things were overwhelming. Once I started figuring that out, not completely to the point I am now, but once I started figuring that out in 2016, that's when I asked. Like, I understand I need to stay here, but we need to figure out, like, I need some more guidance and help. And that's how it happened that way. And the reason I feel like I was more grounded here, Amanda, is because of my son and his dad. I would say mostly for my son, because I would think, how will this action teach my son to live his life? And that's, I would say, what anchored me in here.
Wow. And it sounds like there was a lot of reconnection into yourself and that inner knowing and the intuition of there is another way.
Yeah.
And getting to that place and listening to yourself. And even at a very young age after the accident, starting to receive the guidance from your guides, and maybe even not even actually understanding what it was that was happening, but still keeping your vessel open to receive those messages, those communications.
Yeah. It, and we all have that. So when we're speaking about this, much as my ego would have loved at one time to think that I was some special, I mean, we are special, but we all have these technologies within us. And as we're becoming more comfortable with them, it can have challenging parts of the journey, of the ceremony. There weren't always, like, this conviction that I have that I'm able to speak about it now was not always there, because I was literally placed in 4-point restrainers to not be the person I am. And then I needed and chose to move through that, to show the person I am, to be able to say I have guides, to be able to say I know interdimensional or another consciousness that exists. Just because somebody hasn't seen it yet, that doesn't mean that it's not real. It's like with dogs, they can only see certain dimensions, but it doesn't mean other things aren't there, or other colors aren't there. But this trust in myself is something that was forged. And I believe not just in this lifetime, but through different lifetimes. And that's what I want to really share for all of those listening here, is that each experience that we're having, whether it be joyful or painful or just yeah, it's forging us into our trust in our beingness that we are right now.
Yeah, I love that, because it's whenever you can get back into that inner knowing and that trusting of yourself, then you're able to trust other people around you and trust the process, trust the universe, trust your guides, trust everything, and to be able to find another path, another way. And I mean, gosh, you spent the majority of your life in this, you know, difficult, all these different challenges, but you still found a way, and regardless of the timing, you know, it still worked for you. And now here you are able to help other people help themselves and sharing this story, and to be able to emotionally detach yourself from, quote unquote, your story. You don't want to live in this victim of, oh, this happened to me, but here's what I learned, and here's how I was able to transmute that experience into something incredible and be able to help others find that trust again.
I would like to just tell them that I'm still on this process. Like many of us are. Like, I am still learning how to fully take care of myself. And for some people, they've already mastered that at this age in their life. But for me, I'm transitioning from being on disability for a brain injury into being able to have a business and to work. And I like to be transparent about that so they understand, because there are people who are just like me who are told, you will never work. You will never be capable of working. And what I want to say to you, without any fear, if you're listening to this, is it may take time. It may take, investing in coaches. It may take taking some journeys. It may take some scary things, but you are totally capable of becoming the embodied being that you know that you can be. I find
That's
that very important for
100%
them to
true.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, the spells that are cast with our words are incredibly important. And, somebody saying that, hey, you don't have any options and this is the way that it is. So many people, because it's the doctor, it's a medical professional that, well, they've studied this longer than I have, go into a phase of just believing that that's just the way it is. And, I experienced that myself with my endometriosis. It was like, well, you can go do this expensive surgery and it'll cut it out and it will give you some relief for a couple of years. And you can take this drug and then it's going to have that side effect and that side effect, but you're not going to be in pain. And it was like, what? I'm sorry. What is the problem here? Another friend of mine that helped me along my healing journey, they told her she had multiple sclerosis, that she was going to have to take an $80,000 drug for the rest of her, $80,000 a year medication for the rest of her life. And thankfully, she chose not to believe that spell. And you did too, of like, no, there's another way, because so many people fall into that. And I know Joe Dispenza, you were referencing him earlier, has a lot of research about the placebo and the nocebo effect and all those things. And like taking on those words of defeat can defeat you.
Yeah.
So it's
Yes.
realizing that, you know what, I'm going to trust that inner knowing. I'm going to trust myself that I am not going to just receive this information as the one and only option. Somebody may be telling you that has more education, more experience than you, but they're not you. They are not inside your body, and nobody can know your own body better than yourself.
Yeah. Yes. And I want to say that the people who told me that actually were very well meaning. It is
Of
what they
course.
believe. And I met so many beautiful nurses and doctors, and I love that profession. I know that there can be a bridge. That really is my goal, to have a bridge between the spiritual side of things and the science side of things, because they're actually one. It's just a marriage that's from the heart instead of an older paradigm of dependency rather than sovereignty. So I'm just very excited to see all of the new advances that are happening. And when we learn to trust ourselves, there is a filtration system of knowing what we're going to listen to as fact or what we're going to listen to from curiosity and information. And that was a big lesson for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that curiosity. And that's a reference from that recent episode on your podcast, Spiritual Bridge with Penelope. And Penelope is 81 years old. And she was like, I look at life from a viewpoint of curiosity. And that is so imperative, whether that is for your own health, especially for your own health. Any kind of well-being is looking at things from a viewpoint of curiosity. So that's incredible that you were able to have that, even with all the difficulty and the challenges that you were experiencing. You found another option because you were curious.
Yeah, I was curious and I always asked. I had the audacity to ask
Yeah.
and to believe that something would work, whatever it was. I truly believe my positive attitude, which I know positivity can suppress things, but also positivity can lead us, can guide us. And I know my positivity, even in those moments that seemed like there was no positivity, it led me to the belief of knowing that I will always lead myself and be led by my ceremony, and to be faithful to that, to be faithful to that.
Yeah, that's true, because I think there's a difference between the positivity of just assuming and pretending that everything's all light versus the constantly seeking it, and
Yeah.
the seeking it is very different, and knowing that there may be darkness, but there is also light, and we're not going to ignore the darkness, and you shove that darkness down, it just makes it even darker and more complicated to clean up and to see the light. But to at least know that the light's there, we don't want to pretend that the darkness isn't there, but knowing that there is light, let me find it. Let me find another way to get to it. I mean, that's what nature does. You see thousands of trees out competing for sunshine, and they all bend and contort themselves to get towards the sun because they know that there is a way to find the light.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me think of one of my beautiful mentors. I was in her beautiful mentorship, Walking the Medicine Path. Her name is Daniela Riojas. And I remember there was one question about when we see, like when we're in certain situations and we see, because some people are seers, they see the darkness. I happen to feel it because I'm more of a feeler, but some people see it. And I remember the question, they're like, what do we do? She's like, well, we certainly don't invite it in. We're not going to invite it in. We can be aware of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have to invite it in. We can invite the light in, or remember the light that's within us.
Yeah. It's all about remembering that light that is within us and getting back to that and finding it. And I experienced a ceremony with Daniela as well. She is incredible. I definitely add her to my group of mentors who have been able to hold some space for me in my healing journey as well. She's incredible. Yeah.
Definitely. So that brings me to how the trust program was created. Um, it's like a lot of creations. My life helped create it. You know, my life helped create this program, and me moving through these challenges and transmuting them and then embodying them, and still on the process of embodying certain parts. But in this program, I'm teaching parts that I have already felt, that I have had a lot of exposure around and success with me embodying it. So it has 6 main modules, but I'm going to touch just on a couple. The first one is really learning to ground down into the earth and into your body, and with the celestial connecting up, and learning to differentiate what is the energy you want to connect with and what energy you choose not to. You choose not to let in. And having that, I think, helps us, and I know helps us to have more discernment. How is that helpful? Well, that's going to help you on your path with knowing who to work with, who not to work with. Not that there's right or wrongs, but it's going to help you understand in that moment, do I want to invest in this with money or energy, with any of it? And then the module I really want to talk about is the betrayal, the gift of betrayal. Because I found that though it's a painful and challenging journey to have chosen, having betrayed myself or being betrayed in relationships uh, is connected. And then how to see the gold once we choose to stop betraying ourselves, how that ripples out into every facet of our life. And it can be like this, a quick, change, like our mentor Danny will say, or like with me, it's been a trickle, and sometimes it's faster, and sometimes something else shows up in its own unique time. And that's fine, because all of us have our unique path and our unique ceremony. But in that module, I'm really excited because I feel like a lot of times people get stuck in their story of betrayal, and they feel like they will never be loved, or they will always be cheated on, or whatever story they have created and spell that they're casting upon themselves, really.
Yeah.
Once we become aware of that, we're like, well, if that's done, it's been done for certain reasons. For me, a lot of it was I was manifesting it. I would literally think so much in my past relationship that something would happen that I created it out of that fear. Obviously, there are other things. There were my part in the relationship too. Lack of setting boundaries, lack of voicing my feelings, uh, being very controlling because thinking control was love. All these different things that I got the gift to move through, and then I got it reflected back to me. So I really love that module. And then there's another module, I love all of them, but there's another one I'd like to talk about too, is where we look at our ancestral lines, which this is different from Daniela's program because she does have one in there that talks about the ancestry, but it's different. Mine is, which I recommend everyone takes her course too. I know I'm not on here to talk about her course, but you really should. She has an amazing course. But this one is more to forgiving any guilt and shame that we might have with parts of our ancestry that might have been parts of darkness or light. And that was important for me on my journey, was I hadn't realized how much guilt and shame I was holding on to even things that I didn't even know if my ancestry did. I didn't even have proof that my ancestry did this, but I felt it. And so I got to learn to differentiate what is my feeling, what is truth of what was my ancestry, and what has been projected onto me. And that was a very important for me in my journey.
Yeah, I think that is very powerful, and so many people probably don't even realize how much weight that they carry that's not even theirs. That emotion, those emotions and feelings that get trapped in our bodies that aren't even ours. So, how did you dig in and start finding out that that's what you were holding on to was someone else from the past, from your ancestors?
Happened in many different ways. Uh, it I had it happen in some of my breath works at the Awaken. I had it happen in some areas where I would go to land and travel, and I would have information come in. I had it in my ayahuasca journey. I was shown certain things. And then I got to have more awareness and be held in such a loving way in Daniela's program. Um, and I think it's something that's ongoing. It is an ongoing process. But I also learned within all of that that even when we say it, like, yes, it could be an intergenerational message, but I also learned that some of the energies I was taking on that felt I was responsible for were not even in my family's lineage. It was from things I listened to at school or things that were said, like, okay, I'll give an example. White people do this to this other group. And I would instantly make myself feel responsible for that. But I wasn't responsible for that. That wasn't for me to hold. That was for somebody else to hold. And if someone in my lineage did that, I hold it. But if they didn't, that is not for me to hold.
Yeah.
It is not for me to feel guilt or shame about, but rather to have an awareness of somebody else's journey.
So, how would you guide someone to release that from their physical and spiritual being if they do become aware of, okay, I'm holding some guilt and shame from, be it just things that people say and it makes you feel a certain way and that's not yours, or even the pieces that maybe are from your own lineage? Um, what's the first step to start letting go of that?
I believe the first step is asking yourself, are you ready to let go of that?
True.
I think that's the fundamental question before any programs, any journey, any sort of technique or skill is to check in with yourself. Because in the end, from what I've noticed so far, is that we are our liberators. Everything else is a tool that can help us, but they do not hold the answers nor the solutions to our problems. Only we do. Only we can set ourselves free.
That's so true. You know, I think so many times we are looking for, I say we, it was just people in general, myself, have looked for answers outside of us. And um, that's not the way to go about it. I mean, you can keep looking and somebody might give you something, but it is all within yourself and being able to say, yes, I am ready to let this go and um, making that choice. Because like you said, all those other things are tools and resources that are there, help us hold space, help us guide us along the way. But ultimately, nobody else can do it for you.
That's exciting because that
Yeah.
means we're sovereign.
Yes, it's liberating. It's liberating because you don't have to wait for somebody else to do it.
Yeah. So that's my biggest suggestion. I love the tools, I love the programs, I love mentors, obviously, because I invest in them and then I hold them and I find great value in all of them. But my soul's purpose in this realm is to really encourage people to connect in to their inner wisdom, to trust their ceremony, and to be able to be sovereign. Doesn't mean we don't have communities or have people, but to know that you have that source within. And really, for what I've noticed from and the embodied mentors or grounded mentors I've been around, they all say the same thing. The sages said the same thing. It's within you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's powerful. And what types of transformations are you seeing from people that are going through this type of program?
Yeah, so they can look on my IG. I have a couple testimonials, but what I see, the biggest thing that I see that I love, people come back into their bodies. They feel, because what I didn't mention in my program is I lead 2 hypnotherapy sessions. When I do these sessions, they are specifically coded for the person I'm with. So though I was trained with Marissa Peer, I utilize some of that hypnotherapy, but I'm connecting into the divine, and this comes through. So I am making this sacred space that is safe for the individual to connect back with that energy that is them. And what I see is they start remembering, if only for that moment that we're there, though I see it go further, they have this remembrance of who they are. They start healing things within them. They feel peace in their nervous system. And how I've seen it go, like, trickle out into their lives is I have seen my friend, well, I say friend, she's someone who was in my program, but yeah, they do become your friends. I've seen her feel comfortable with being her, with being herself, whatever magic that is, however that looks for her. I see that in herself, with her family. I see it with another beautiful participant. I witnessed her, I can't say everything because things are confidential, obviously, but I witnessed her release things that had been stuck in there that were traumatic, and she released it. And I saw the lightness in her body and her to start open up to trusting certain experiences and people in her life. And though my program wasn't her end step, I saw it allow her to go to deeper journeys. So I feel like my program is often is either before a journey with plant medicine or after. This is what I've noticed for people. It either helps them move towards it to feel safe to go into it, or it helps button it up afterwards. Because I've had also people who were with me after they had a journey and they were having trouble sleeping, they were having different things, and they went through this and they started to feel more comfortable in their body again, yet keep all the gifts that they saw when they were in that journey. So I believe they're profound transformations, because to be in your body and to feel connected and to trust where you're going, I personally think is priceless.
I agree. That's worth repeating.
I don't know if I remember it. Sometimes it's just coming through.
Right.
Yeah. Being in your body, right? Trusting your process and being connected is priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like all of the other things stem from that, and that's my thing with this podcast, Back to the Heart. It's getting back to yourself and trusting that this is similar concept there, because once you are in tune with you and what you need and want, then you're able to have those other things around you start having a ripple effect. And that's really where the healing really starts to expand, is when you can come into yourself. Because if you don't have that as the foundation, all these other tools and resources may be there, but we get confused in our heads and our, monkey brain and all the outside distractions and chemicals and environmental things that are there to cloud us from seeing and feeling and getting to know into our true self. So that is incredibly powerful. And I always recommend to people, if you're looking, to work on anything that's in your life that's a challenge, if you can get back into yourself and trusting in that inner knowing of you first, then it's going to help you with that relationship. Then it's going to help you with that purpose. Then it's going to help you with, manifesting the money that you want, whatever it is. But getting back to yourself is number one priority, because it bleeds into all the other pieces.
I mean, that's our life.
It is.
You get to be in charge of your human.
Right. Exactly. It's so powerful. And in some of the hypnotherapy, you do past life regression too?
Yeah. So, yeah, I will tell people that I'm in the process of interning with the Dolores Cannon method. But what brought me to learn that was that in my hypnotherapy sessions, people were already popping to past lives or to different planets. And I frankly was not prepared for that at first, because I thought I was doing hypnotherapy for, you want to lose some weight, or you want to like reprogram your cells or something like that. But the more I went into understanding that we have multiple lifetimes, I'm certain that I did this in a different lifetime. So that's probably why that was happening. So I don't officially offer the past life regressions yet, because I want to respect the 3D and what Dolores Cannon says for getting through the internship. But that said, within my own sessions, we go wherever the subconscious and the soul wants to go. And that is within the law of the universe, because that's where the soul and the consciousness wants to go.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that's interconnected, especially after a plant medicine journey, because so many times you hear stories, people have experiences, and they're like, well, I saw or felt, whatever, this or that, but I don't really understand it. And to have another tool and resource like the hypnotherapy for you to be able to dig in and take them into that space and do a little bit more digging and ask some more questions to help them better understand what they've experienced, I can see how incredibly powerful that is, and getting back to themselves and continuing a healing journey.
Yeah, and sometimes, I really like this from one of my mentors too, is like, not all of our visions need to be understood. We're putting the need.
Yeah.
We're placing all the meaning and definition to everything. And so I'll share a little bit about me when I first started understanding interdimensionals, because that's going to be a big topic that people are starting to become more comfortable with, because now a mass is starting to understand there's another part of consciousness. But for me, because I've already moved through that, which I'm not saying like I'm better because I moved through it. Other people move through other things faster than me. I just happened to go through that one before something else, right? But for me, when I'm listening to it, I'm understanding it with a different perspective. Whereas when I first started going into it, I was like, oh, I'm a starseed. That makes me special because I'm a starseed. And then I started realizing, oh, that vision and that labeling is still part of the ego, and it's all part of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes these things, they have a meaning and then they have no meaning. It's whatever we want to put onto it and wherever we want to stay.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Well, is there anything else that you want to, include for the audience? What kind of feedback would you like to wrap up?
I would like to say, gift you something that would have been so helpful on my journey. That wherever you are, whatever you have experienced, you're exactly where you're meant to be. There is no rush. There's no urgency. You are fully protected. You are very supported. You are cradled in so much love from the angels and the divine that you can tap into that whenever you choose on your own, because that capability is within you. And there's people who can help guide you back to that remembrance, but that's available to you at any frequency level and at any economic level. It's available to you now and always.
I love that. I think that's a perfect way to end this episode. That's powerful.
Thank you, Amanda, for this space. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you, and I appreciate all your listeners.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us for this heart-expanding conversation. If something landed for you today, a breath, a memory, a moment of truth, share this episode with someone who is on their healing journey too. You never know how your voice might ripple out and support someone else's transformation. Big love and gratitude towards LuAna for sharing her medicine, her presence, and her wisdom. You can find her offerings, including Reiki, hypnotherapy, and her podcast, The Spiritual Bridge, linked in the show notes below. And seriously, do yourself a favor and try one of her meditations. They are next level healing. If you are ready to go deeper in your own transformation, I would love to walk beside you. You can book a free 30-minute intro call or explore one-on-one and group coaching at the link in the show notes, or by emailing me at backtotheheart2loveme@gmail.com. Until next time, keep breathing, keep listening, and keep coming back to the heart.